Every startup looks exciting until something goes wrong. That's when risk management becomes your best friend. Welcome to part 49 of the journey from idea to fantasy sports platform in 100 days or less. Today, I'm diving into one of the most overlooked parts of any startup, risk, and the potential failure points that could make or break the business. At this stage, there's very little risk because we're not yet live. But the moment we go public, dealing with real users and real money, everything changes. That's when every small issue gets amplified. So I'm going to run a risk analysis, listing everything that could go wrong, how likely it is to happen, and how we can reduce the damage if it does. Scenario 1. Let's start with the obvious one. What if the platform just doesn't work? We'd lose users, people would get angry, and if they've deposited money, they'll want it back. So how do we prevent that? Regular testing, rewards for early users who report bugs, monitoring server load at peak times, and ensuring capacity always scales with traffic. Scenario 2, cash flow risks. What if we can't cover our fixed costs? And by these, I mean the regular monthly costs like server fees, hosting, renewals, or essential tools. This ties straight back to cash flow and runway, which I talked about earlier. If the runway shortens, everything else becomes riskier. Scenario 3, breaking the live site through updates. Every update on a live system could either unintentionally break another part of the platform or simply crash the whole thing. So to mitigate that, I'm going to introduce a staging environment, a kind of test zone between the developer system and the live site. That way I can review and test updates and any potential knock-on effects before they affect real users. Scenario 4, regulatory risk. If a government body investigates or pauses the platform, it could damage credibility overnight. The mitigation? Stay fully informed on all relevant laws, have legal representation on standby, and start the licensing process early, even if it's not yet required. That shows good faith and long-term thinking, should we ever cross a line, whether intentional or not. So to manage all of this, I'm building a risk register, basically a spreadsheet that tracks everything. It'll include a description of each risk, the cause, the impact on the business, the likelihood of it happening, a RAG status, so red, amber, or green in terms of how critical it is at that time, impact scores of that risk on finance, reputation, data, compliance, and timelines, and finally, whether we'll accept the risk as is or look to mitigate it immediately and how we go about that. It's not the most glamorous part of building a business, but it's one of the most important. A proper risk register doesn't just help you prepare, it also shows potential investors that you're thinking ahead and building for sustainability. I recommend revisiting your risk analysis every 6 months, or even more often than that if your risks are high or changing fast. For startups, it's all about awareness, planning, and quick action. So hit like, subscribe, or follow, and join me in part 50, where I'll start exploring the next big topic of marketing and navigating the absolute minefield of all the tools out there, especially for social media, on a limited budget.